So I'm Dana. I am the Director of Children's Services. So I have a background in early childhood. My bachelor's degree is in child life. So I was a child life specialist for a while in a children's hospital. I've also been a infant teacher, a toddler teacher, a pre-K teacher. I've done some teaching in a kindergarten classroom. I've also been an early intervention specialist. I've been a site leader and I've been an early childhood program coordinator. So all of my history is kind of all in early childhood, working with children and families. That's what I love. That's my kind of niche. Um, so that's kind of a little bit about me. I have three boys. So mom, always researching, looking for new trends in early childhood development. Just kind of a lifelong learner with families and children. So my first job at the St. Louis Arc was a site leader. So I was a site leader for 5 years in Normandy. So I was embedded in 10 early child care centers where I worked closely with the director and the teachers on kids that learn a little bit differently or seem to be having some behavioral challenges in the classroom. I worked one-on-one with them and the teacher and their parents to make sure that they had the services they needed. I also work with the teacher as far as how to include those kids in the classroom, how to, plan for them as far as like their lesson plans, how can we tweak the lesson plan to also include them in that learning process as well. I followed them on to kindergarten and kind of made sure that the services that they were getting through us, they were also getting through the school when they transitioned over into that kindergarten classroom. So I did that for about 5 years and I loved it. I loved being in the classroom, working with the teachers and all of the community partners that are also in those centers as well. So it's kind of a great wraparound service for those daycares.
This is one of the services that I am most excited about that we offer at the ARC. And I think it's an unusual model in that you don't really have your own classroom. You're there in really more of a consultant kind of a capacity for so many different people. Tell everybody a little bit about why you think those kinds of consultative embedded services are good model.
Well, I love the site leader model because it provides services not only just to, the pre-K classroom, but it also provides services to the whole entire center. So you're floating, you're working with a variety of age ranges of kids from birth all the way up to pre-K. And we all know that a lot of the research that you see on early child development is the more that you expose kids to those classrooms, those early learning experiences, language experiences, the better off they do academically in school. So we're catching those kids early. We're helping those kids that learn a little differently or have some behavioral issues. We're catching them early. We're getting them those interventions and services into their home or into those daycares early so that those kids have a better start when they are going to school. Also, a fun thing too is you get to work with the teachers. So you get to find out what the teachers are interested in and, some of those subjects, about early childhood development, you're teaching the teacher like age appropriate child development. What should the kids in your class be doing that's developmentally appropriate? And also, what are those kids that might be slightly behind? Or a lot of times you're kind of educating them on age appropriate practices and how to, if they do have a kid, that's in their classroom that is a little bit behind, how can they use what they already have in their classroom to help that child along the way? And how can you pair them with some of their peers that might be developing appropriately to help them along that way too? So I love the embedded model because you're kind of bringing the community in along with your site leader, along with the director and the teachers, and all working, together collectively to make sure that these kids are getting the best start to kindergarten that they can.
I love it so much. And I really think about the impact you're having, one person impacting multiple classrooms of kids, not just the kids with the disability, but the kids that are partnering with them and being buddies and friends to them, with all the teachers, with the administrators. I'm in love with that service. I hope that's something that we're able to continue to do for a really long time. So I want to make sure that while we've got you, I talk about all the things that we currently do with children's services, and then look through kind of a looking glass to the future. So you've got three programs that you're currently overseeing. The Normandy program is one of them. And then PLT is a very unusual program. Actually, all of your programs are really cool. You got a good job. So tell everybody what PLT is.
PLT is our Parents Learning Together program. So this is a program for parents that have a developmental delay or disability that are actively living with their children, raising their children on their own. So this is a program that helps those parents with those child development skills, parenting skills. They're helping them find jobs. They're helping them maintain their households, budgeting. I was fortunate enough to be a part of one of their weekly group meetings where we had a St. Louis University student that was talking to the parents about internet safety and their kids. So as far as them getting on chats, those live online gaming that you can go on the internet. So it's just about internet safety. I learned a lot about internet safety from a parent standpoint. So I was learning with them. So yes, they have weekly group meetings where they talk about different topics where all the parents are sharing and learning, not only from the staff, but each other. So there's lots of different friendships and bonds and connections that they make in that program. The staff is excellent at helping self-efficacy with their participants, as far as them being able to access community resources that they need for themselves and their families. So they're really building the families up to be self-reliant. I would love to see in that program putting some literacy components in there, and also kind of partnering with some of the food banks that we locally have here to get some healthy cooking demonstrations to get them a little bit easier access to those opportunities as well. Also partnering with some of our other community partners, like Ready Readers. I would love to see a partnership with them as far as PLT and getting some literacy components in there for both the parents and kids. So lots of possibilities for PLT. That's a very strong program. So with them going down to have a home in Delmar Divine, I'm hoping to solidify some partnerships with those new organizations that we're going to be kind of living in that hub with us.
Way to slip the divine in here. Let's talk about that for a minute. It's so great for me to listen to you. And for those of you out there who don't know, the values that drive us at the ARC are respect, collaboration, and empowerment. You can hear that in Dana's conversation today, but you clearly are into the partnership opportunities. Can you let our listeners know, what is Delmar Divine?
So Delmar Divine is kind of a community living space where there is opportunities to, there's like apartments, and there's also spaces that community organizations like St. Louis ARC are going to be down there in that facility. So along with us is Generate Health, Alive and Well, Teach for America, KIP St. Louis, WashU has a hub down there as well. So it's a host of community organizations that are all going to kind of be living in one space, sharing the space downtown. It gives us lots of access to other community organizations, as well as other potential participants that live in that area. So lots of room for growth and partnership down there.
So you've talked about PLT and the embedded programs at Normandy. Let's talk about Capable Kids and Families. I don't want to leave them out because that's another stellar, unique program. Can you tell everybody about CKF?
Yeah, so Capable Kids and Families is a home visiting program where we have family research specialists that go into the homes and work directly with the families on things that are focused on what the family needs, what their child needs. The families in this program have a child that is living with a developmental disability or delay. So our research specialists are going in there and really getting to know the family and talking to them about what they need. So some of the families might need help with advocacy skills. Some of them might need help with developmentally appropriate equipment. A cool thing about this program is that they have an equipment lending center where families can be lent out equipment that they need to meet their child's needs, especially their developmental needs. These family resource specialists go in and they actually help the families find community resources that they might need for their family at that particular time. So most of these kids in Capable Kids and Family range from birth to 7. So that's really their target age for this group.
Something I didn't say, and as Dana's talking about all these programs, if you think that one of these programs might be a match for your family member, they're all funded in different ways. So the easiest thing for you to do is to call our main office at 314-569-2211 and ask to speak to the family navigator that works with children. We've got a family navigator who works with children 13 and under. She's going to be your starting point to see all the different services that might be available to you, depending upon the age of your child and where you live and what's going on. So she'll get you to all the right people, including all the programs that Dana's talked about today. So Dana, I'm going to ask you a surprise question. I like to throw in things that nobody knows about. So you've been back now for a couple months. What has been something that's been exciting for you, maybe that surprised you or that just really made you feel good about the decision you made to come back to the art?
I am excited about the potential to grow our programs and to start new programs. I'm really excited about that. The programs that we have, they're strong. They've got a wonderful staff, and I just see so many opportunities to expand them as well as to create some new programs. So I feel like Children's Services is off to a great start, but it's just the beginning. We're going to expand and we're going to grow, and we're just ready to serve families in a different capacity than we are now. So I'm excited about the growth that I see coming for the department.
So I always find that to be so tricky because you've got to be thoughtful when you're going to grow. And I want to know what's your process? How do you kind of assess the St. Louis scene and figure out, clearly you look for partnership opportunities, but how else do you think about what might be beneficial? How do you get the information you need to decide where to start a new program or to expand?
So I'm always kind of looking at what services are already there, looking at gaps in services, and always talking to parents. We always have parents that are calling, looking for services, needing particular services. So I always take in mind what families are asking for, especially in the area, and what families need. And when they're calling, kind of, what's kind of niche are they seeing a trend? Are they seeing gaps in services? As well as all of our workers in our children's services, a lot of them are in the community, in those classrooms, talking to and working with families firsthand. So we've got kind of a unique experience where we're talking to community partners and families, and we're out in the community. So that brings a wealth of data into us as far as to where to go next.
So as you talk to people, are there things that are sticking out for you as possibilities? And when I say that, everyone, that doesn't mean we are ready to start a program. This is just us thinking, and we're sharing that with you.
Yes, so I've gotten a lot of calls for families seeking social skills groups. I think that is a great niche to kind of start in and grow. The potential for different social skills groups, it could be language, it could be um, social, it could be more geared toward occupational skills. There's just like a lot of different avenues where you could go with social skills to help a variety of kids in one setting. So I definitely am interested in growing a program for social skills and more community outreach.
If you were going to do some outreach with families that have their kids in the early childhood range before they're getting into preschool and kindergarten, what are some of the things that you'd want them to know and want them to have access to?
I would want them to have access to any information regarding early childhood, early child development, any kind of those tips and tricks as far as, picky eating, walking, potty training, how to pick out, what to look for in a child care center, different things like that. I would definitely think those were a wealth of knowledge as far as just, especially for new parents. Sometimes when you're a new parent, you're kind of just absorbing all of this, information about your kids and thinking, oh, well, I think she's okay. I'm not really sure. Oh, she's not walking yet. Oh, should she be walking? So you kind of just have all of these different, questions circling around in your head. So I'd love to be able to be a resource for them as far as, hey, is your kid growing and developing appropriately, and being able to give them some, age appropriate activities that they can use, especially using things that they already have in their house. A lot of times, I know I did when I was a new parent, I'm like, I'm buying the newest and best and most awesomest toys in the, store there is. But a lot of times, I could have probably made something exactly the same thing, as home. So definitely using what you have, using your resources that you already have at home to help your child with those child development milestones that come along. So I would love to provide information like that.
What a great answer. And that was a surprise question. You just did really so good. Now we're going to move up the age range. So now I'm in preschool, going into kindergarten, that kind of age. What would you want to talk to families about or kind of evaluate with them?
I would focus a lot in that age on kindergarten readiness skills. Our site leader role does that really well. They're preparing all of our kids for kindergarten, so making sure those have those skills to be able to adapt to a kindergarten classroom. So I'd focus on kind of kindergarten readiness. I would focus on what you need to do to register your child for kindergarten. So it's a lot of those things like, have you had your world child check? Does your child have all their shots? Have they had dental checkup? Have they had hearing and vision screenings? All of those things that kind of go along with registering your child for kindergarten. Do you have, proof of residency? Do you have your child's birth certificate? So all of those kind of elements that go into preparing just to register your child for kindergarten, and then all of those kindergarten readiness skills.
Guess what I'm going to ask now? Elementary school.
So with elementary school, I would focus a lot on those social emotional skills with being in school, being around others, balancing school relationships, extracurricular activities. How do you talk to your child about those maybe uncomfortable topics? How to notice whether your child might be in a mental health crisis, things like that. Especially with COVID, there's a very high rate of mental health challenges with our school age population, from them being isolated with COVID to be going to virtual. A lot of kids don't learn that well on virtual. A lot of them have to be in person, doing, seeing, thinking with others. So that can cause a deficit. So just making sure that you're checking in and looking at their overall wellness and just how to talk to kids about, those uncomfortable topics.
All right, I don't want to leave out the middle schoolers. I feel like we always can we have a little bit of a gap at the ARC. So the social skills is exciting for me because we can tap into different age ranges where we don't have a whole lot of services. So what about middle school kiddos?
Yeah, so for middle school, I would definitely tap into those social skills, those entrepreneurial skills. I think that middle school is a great age for kids to just start delving into what could they potentially want to do. I think once you get to high school, it's great, but if you can give them a more like a couple of extra years to kind of figure out like, hey, let's look at this college experience, or hey, let's look at, not college isn't for everyone, what else would you want to do? A lot of kids at that age are kind of finding a niche, whether it be, I have someone that's in that middle school that's very interested in culinary school. So, finding lots of information on culinary schools and what does that entail, and finding opportunities for them to kind of, get their feet wet and whatever that they're interested in, I think is really, really, really good opportunity for them, because those 4 years of high school fly by, and then you're in that, like, your senior year, and you're like, what am I going to do? What are you going to do with your life? So, finding, and at that age too, I did it too. I was very indecisive. You go to one thing, you think, oh, I love this, and you're like, oh, I don't like it. And then you move on to something else. So providing as many, opportunities for them to kind of find themselves and find their niche. I think that's a perfect age to do that, as well as helping parents kind of navigate those ups and downs of that particular teenage, years as well. They're not quite adults, but they're not quite kids. So,
Yeah,
being able to meet them where they're at and kind of help them find themselves can sometimes be a tricky line to tread. So I would love to help support parents
absolutely.
that way as well.
I think those are really good points because it's very hard to know what you want to do without having a bunch of experiences so that you can say, this was cool. I didn't like. I thought this part of this was great, but I really couldn't stand this. And I think sometimes, especially for kids with disabilities, they don't get to have as broad a range of experiences. So it doesn't have to come out as a vocational skill. Cooking can
Right.
just be fun and be
You're right.
cooking, but then you can find out, wow, maybe I might want to look at jobs in this area. So I think I wholeheartedly support that. I think that's such an important thing to do, and the earlier the better.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me talk about children's services. I'm so excited about where we are and where we're going. And I hope that you join us on this journey. I hope that you come be a part of some of our services. And if you can think of anything that you are just dying for us to get into, any kind of realm of children's services, I welcome your comments and suggestions. So thank you so much.